Dave, we're here in Port Elizabeth with you having copped a 75% match fee fine and 3 demerit points for your involvement in the Quinton de Kock stairwell stoush. Before we get into it, can you just give us your version of events about what happened that day?
Yeah, look, there was a couple of verbal words exchanged as we were walking off the field, and we were just walking up the stairs, and we're about to get to the change rooms, and I sort of heard someone hissing at me, and I thought it was one of my players, and turned around, and it was Quinny, and from there it basically turned into a bit more of a verbal stoush, and he said something to me that was quite vile and vulgar, and it was derogatory. A comment made about my wife, and it really triggered an emotional reaction, response from myself, and I would never expect a comment that was so disgusting in the close proximity of myself from another player, and I accept obviously the charges that have been laid, and I regret the way it was played out, but I'll keep continuing to stand up for my family.
There's been some new CCTV footage leaked about, or shown. It looked like the moment that de Kock said the stuff and said what he said. Can you just talk us through that and what happened in that moment?
Yeah, it was just simply, we were about to walk up the first set of stairs to our change room, and as I was walking in front of him, as you can see in that footage, he then decided to say what he said, which, as I said, was very disgusting and vile comment about my wife. And I don't think you should be saying that about any lady or a player's wife. But yeah, it got that emotional response from me, and it sort of panned its way back upstairs, and I just wanted to express to him to say it out loud and not just say it behind someone's back, and look at me in the eye and say it.
If something like this happens again after what you've been through, how do you think you're going to react in the future?
I'd probably take the appropriate action and try and go into a quiet room with the officials and try and get what he said out of him in front of people. It's something that in the past, yeah, I definitely I do dish it out on the field, and I do get quite vocal on the field, but never would I ever bring someone's family into that context, or say disgusting, vile comments about a player's wife or a woman in general. And hopefully that scenario never actually happens again. But I'm very regretful for the way that it played out, and hopefully we can move on from this.
There's so much talk about where the line is and what is meant by going personal or getting personal on the field. Do you know where that line is? Do you know where you've got to draw the line between being personal and not being personal?
I think it's up to each individual. I've been called a lot of names that can't be repeated, obviously, but at the end of the day, if no one's actually saying anything about that, then you feel like that's probably not too personal. But there's always there's the guidelines and that are in the ICC books that are a no-go zone. Everyone knows that, and you just don't ever go there. And from where I sat, I'd never ever thought or would think I'd hear the disgusting comment that came out of Quinny's mouth off the field, especially walking up the tunnel back to the change rooms.
And the Australians have been adamant that they haven't gone personal with any of the South African players, including de Kock. Are you happy to back that up and say that you guys never crossed that line?
Yeah, definitely. We didn't cross that line at all. We on the field. It's there's a lot of chit chat and banter, but it does not get personal one bit. We play our brand of cricket, aggressive and hard, and we always try to get the best out of ourselves and make sure that we always play on skill and not emotion when we're out there. There's times where you might get a bit emotional when that's inside, with bowlers or etc. or batters, but not once do we cross the line when we're out there. And I think we've been very, very good in the last 2 years. We haven't. I think we've had probably one case where someone's been fined for overstepping that sort of mark. But same with myself. I've tried hard the last sort of 24 months to be as good as I can, and my family's played a big role in that.
With 3 points hanging over your head, you're only 1 point away from being suspended. Is this going to change the way that David Warner plays out in the field?
No, not at all. I'll always keep continuing to play my hard, aggressive cricket. That's what I always set out to have done early on in my career, and making sure that I'm getting in that contest. But as you say, you know, it's one of those things that gets me going. If I'm up and about and I'm talking and got a lot of energy out there, the rest of the boys follow, and it's important to have, you know, someone do that. And I set the benchmark high for us to keep that energy as high as possible.
I can imagine it's been a challenging week. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the matter?
Yeah, I just want to, you know, apologise for the way that it played out. I regret that situation that happened. You know, I'm sorry for the people that I may have let down, you know, our fans and people back home and even my family. But at the end of the day, when, you know, there's a vile comment that's made, I'll keep continuing to stick up for my family. 'Cause that's the most important thing to me.